My father, he has an addiction. I tried to help him out multiple times, but he keeps going back to his vice. But the worst part of this is now my husband is involved, and you guys will not believe the lengths that my father goes to ruin my life, my husband's life, and his life. Even today, I feel anxious when I see my dad's text or missed calls on my phone. He's done everything in the past that impacted my life in the worst way possible. I've developed a kind of apprehension whenever I see him walking into my life with a devilish grin upon his face, and his brown eyes reminding me of a cunning fox that's going to feed me to savages just to save his own butt. Well, he's done so much that if I remember one thing, there's a whole train of recollection that I'll have to let pass through my neurons. While in the meantime, I feel suffocated in my lungs because of heaviness. You already get the idea of my anxiety and my dad being the only cause of it. And today I clearly heard my husband talking to my dad, and it's scaring the hell out of me. I should give you at least the minimum details about my background, or even the context of my apprehension. Hi guys, my name's Baby Smith. I'm 26 years old, happily married to my loving husband Josh. My husband and I got married just a year ago, and you know why I'm worried about my husband talking to my dad in secret? Because my dad is not the person he was anymore. My dad Richard, was a nice man when my mom was here, when she was alive. He was such a caring person once because you know that he would take me and my mom for a vacation to beaches, mountains, and sometimes even islands. Our family was doing pretty well financially. My dad was a managing director at an automobile company, and he was admired and respected by his colleagues, neighbors, and even relatives. As soon as my mom passed away from breast cancer, though, he turned into a whole different human being. Someone that even I was not able to recognize. He was no longer the man I once knew. He had turned into someone we referred to as Kevin. But in addition to that hot-tempered tendency, my dad had also turned into a gambler. If you ask me, I also don't know how things took such a 180-degree turn. His life causing all of a sudden, he lost his job, and I don't know what happened, but one day, I overheard him shouting at someone who must have been higher in the rankings because he said, and I quote, "You can't do this to me. You can't do this to me for a minor mistake." I believe something had gone wrong with the product sold to a big company client, as he further said. "Yeah, you know what? Let me put that engine up your..." Yeah, I never heard my dad using invectives like that, as he was never really buzzed when he talked to someone. Maybe my mom had kept him under control otherwise, and how come someone's their personality will explode, and he transforms into this mess of a human? Let me tell you how harmful his influence had been on my past life. I was 15 when my mother passed, and within a year my dad's caliber changed. He started picking fights and quarrels with random people in random situations, and I remember there was this one time when a boy had come to see me at my home. He was my schoolmate, and we used to go to school together. The boy accidentally parked his bicycle on the lawn, and my dad got so furious at this that he almost broke his bike. The boy never hovered near my house or me ever again, and he ignored me at school, and that's how I lost someone just like that. I was heartbroken, 'cause of my dad, and I never got to confess my feelings to that boy. I was a teenager, so I got over it soon, but I did not expect that the love of my life would be so drastically destroyed by my own dad. I was in college when I brought my first boyfriend home. I knew my dad's tendencies, so I tried my best to hide the fact that I was dating somebody. But he somehow got to know about it. He was so cool about it, and asked me to bring the boy home sometime for a bit of lunch. Well, I was delighted to see my dad supporting me that way. I almost believed that my old dad was back, but I was soon going to be proven oh so wrong. He was sipping coffee and talking to the boy that I've brought home. They were smiling, and in between the conversation something happened. Or maybe he just snapped. I remember my dad asked the boy about which political party he aligned with, and they had a disagreement afterwards. My dad was so angry that he started calling that boy nasty names, and comparing him with a scaredy cat and whatnot, and I clearly was disgusted to hear what my dad had to say that time. The trouble increased when the boy retaliated and went on to say how bad the party was that my dad aligned with. As I'm writing about this scene today, I feel like it's so fresh in my memory. The boy and I broke up soon after the event, and I never brought in any other friends or boyfriends for a very long time after that. Another reason why I'm so afraid of my dad creating any bond with my husband is because he has been into gambling. I don't know that some states allow certain types of gambling in our country, yet I find it very risky sport. My dad does not do illegal gambling, as he's more into betting on sports, and that comes with the boundary of law. But what would one do when one gets into debt? 2 years back, when I was away for work in another city, Dad almost got into trouble because of gambling. He was burdened with huge debt, so he called me for the first time, and he sought financial help, and I already knew the situation could have been worse if I did not help him out. His addiction to sport gambling continued for 6 whole months, and we were empty by the time he realized he had nothing more to use to bet. So, I was done with his addiction. So I gave him an ultimatum. Luckily, 1.5 years ago, he just said to me that he had given up on gambling, but his Kevin tendencies remained. I was even embarrassed to take my dad to a family dinner. It's not that he is always behaving in this manner, no, but I can't bring myself to become accustomed to his quote new self. You know why it's bothering me that my husband was talking in secret with my dad? It's because of my dad's aversion towards Josh. I remember that my dad had made it crystal clear, not only to me, but Josh as well, as to how much he disliked him. Josh and I met during a joint company dinner, and the company I worked in was another branch of the company Josh worked in. We met at the dinner and became acquainted, but the wheel of our romance spun when we met again during a meeting at my company, and he was called for. We found ourselves simply attracted towards each other at the second sight, and we shared our numbers, and one day, he finally asked me out. It was also the time when I had given my dad the ultimatum. Soon I told Dad about Josh, and I told him that I'd be bringing him home for a meet-up. So my dad was asked to behave well. He didn't like Josh at first sight itself, and I don't know what kind of prejudice it had. It's led him to say, on my face while Josh was beside me, he said Josh lacked a bit of charm, and my reaction to that was, what does that even mean? And what does charm have to do with two people when they love each other? My dad would not understand as he went on talking crap on our face. I was so dejected by the way my dad behaved with Josh. He asked whether Josh was born and brought up in our country, and he was curious about his alignments with our culture. It made me realize how racist my dad can really be. I held Josh's hands to tell him that he did not have to heed whatever rubbish my dad had to say to him. I didn't know Josh could be so bold to tell my dad we planned to marry then and there. My dad asked whether he was able to afford to make his dad's daughter's dream come true. I was lost for words because my dad mentioned how, as a little girl, I'd asked to marry a guy who could afford a wedding on an island. Dad said it to belittle Josh, but he didn't know, nor could I, that Josh would agree to make that silly dream of mine come true. He did. He did make my dream come true, and honestly, everything was perfect except my dad's behavior, as he chose another moment to belittle Josh at the wedding ceremony itself. The whiskey my dad liked was not there, so my dad said that Josh must not have been able to afford it, and I just asked Josh to ignore it. My dad was so mean to Josh the whole time that my face had turned red because of the embarrassment, and Josh was still polite and kind enough to heed me and pay attention to only me and the other guest. You could argue that he was bold enough to do that, and I told Josh about my anxiety because there was one time when police had to come to our door because of Dad's debt. So to keep me calm, Josh avoided conflict with my dad. After that day, Dad never really interrupted Josh, or even me for that matter. He was quiet for a whole year, just texting me now and then asking if I was okay. There's been times when he would call to ask for money, and I would give him whatever he needed cause neither has a job nor was he going to find one. He is already in his 60s, so it's hard for him to find one, and companies prefer younger people and not withering ones. Dad's never really talked to Josh politely and never cared to text him or call him, and to be fair, Josh never tried from his side as well, which bothered me a bit, but knowing how Dad would react, I never forced Josh to do something like that. So, when today I heard my husband talking to my father, I saw it as an omen. I know I'm exaggerating, but that was the feeling I got. I was in the bathroom when I heard Josh calling my dad Pops, and I immediately knew who it was because Josh called my dad Pops. The reason is Josh was brought up by his grandparents' house because his parents separated and never really cared about him. They left him on his own. I went out after a minute when he had already put down the call. I asked whom he was talking to and he lied. Yes, he lied to me. He said it was someone from the office and I did not push him further and waited for the whole day, thinking he might come around to confess something, but he didn't. Now, I don't know what to do. Should I wait for him to tell me by himself, or should I dig into this by myself? Or am I simply giving it more time and thought than I should be? Any inputs would be great. Comment number 1 from the original post. I would not have let my dad linger near my husband. I'm already anxious reading this. I hope things get better for you, OP. Maybe you should wait for your husband to tell you. If he loves you, then he would not keep secrets, but then some people keep secrets only because they love you. Ugh, it's a whole load of rubbish. Just ask him. Comment number 2. Dude, that's crazy. Crazier to see your husband is even talking to your dad, his only bane in his life. You gotta give credit to your man, cause he's got the nerve to stand up for you against a Kevin. I've encountered so many of them, believe it or not, I just want to punch them in the face every time they open their stupid mouth. Just so you know, I've always wanted to try betting, but seeing how your dad lost all his money, I wouldn't dare spend a penny on it now. I have no one to save my butt if I get into debt. Update number 1. I dread this moment, as I'm forcing myself to write this just as I can update you about the situation. Hi, I've returned after 2 weeks only to tell you something strange is happening. Don't judge, but I could not ask Josh about the conversation between him and my dad. I could not even confirm whether they were really talking or not, I regret not doing that because I saw a text that popped up on the screen of my husband's phone. Josh was in the kitchen cooking dinner for me as I helped him by placing plates all over stuff on the dining table. The text was from my dad. I desperately wanted to show it to Josh and ask him what did that mean, and my dad wanted Josh to call him. This whole thing was getting on my nerves. Still, I waited to see Josh's reaction when he saw the text later, so I pretended not to see when he looked at his phone during dinner. The color of his face changed and I asked if everything was okay. He nodded positively and I became positive that something was off. After dinner, he said he was heading out for a while and I decided to follow him. I know I behaved like a coward for not asking him directly, but I wanted to be sure without giving him any hint of my doubt or give my dad the benefit of my doubt. Josh sat in his car and drove. I took a taxi and followed him, and he stopped in front of a bar which looked normal to me. He went inside, and I followed cautiously, entering, and he was gone. Yeah, he was walking towards a liquor shelf, and then a waiter came and blocked my view, so when I careened my neck to see Josh, he was gone. I asked the bartender if he had seen the man who was walking in front of me, and he denied seeing him. I was sure that there was something going on. I tried to go near the shelf, but I was stopped by the bartender who said that no one's allowed near the shelf. Well, I waited in a corner just to see when Josh would appear, and I didn't see him doing that, though. I waited long enough to get tired and mad, and was there a back door or something in this bar? I went out, called for a taxi, and went home. I can't tell you guys the location or name of the cafe, but all I can tell you is that it's here. And I don't know what to make of it. You know how you have like a secret room behind a door? I don't know. Is it okay to assume there's a bar within a bar? You know what? In this 1 year of marriage, Josh and I have never had a fight. But I have this feeling that we're going to have it today. Right now, I'm in a taxi as I'm writing this, but when I get home and once he returns, I'll ask him about the whole game that he's playing with me. Has my dad also got him into gambling? Has he himself started it again? Why? After all the promises he's made to me, I know I should not cloud my mind with doubt and overthinking, but what am I to do? Update number 2. My heart reeks of grief as I write this update. Wow. I feel betrayed, and that too of my husband, who's been keeping secrets from me and who does not want me to tell him, or even at the risk of losing me. How easy has it been for him to keep secrets from me, knowing that I'd either have anxiety attacks or would simply have no choice but to leave him for real? Even when I've attempted a similar feat by coming to my friend's house, he's still adamant about not telling me what the hell's going on. Let me tell you guys what all happened in the past few days. I'd said that I was in a taxi and reaching home, and I was going to wait for Josh, and once he showed up, I was going to confront him about whatever sorcery he had and my dad were doing together. But you know what happened? When I reached home, Josh was already waiting for me, and before I could ask him, he asked me about my whereabouts. I said I was going to ask him the same. He showed a sign of surprise on his face and he said, "Oh, what do you mean, honey?" I asked where did he go after dinner and when he did arrive. He looked confused as he asked me for the reason I was interrogating him all of a sudden. I asked him once again about his whereabouts and he lied and said that he has gone out for a stroll. At Josh's answer, I rolled my eyes and went to sit on the chair in the dining hall. He followed me and sat in front of me, and he looked in my eyes and he was showing signs of concern. I did not want to corner him into telling the truth because of any pressure it might bring. Instead, I wanted him to come clean despite his clandestine actions for the past few days. Josh, well, he lost the chance, and I lost my anger. I went on to say how I knew that something was going on, and if he had been thinking that I wouldn't know, then he was wrong in that case, and I was able to make out of the situation. So, I didn't want to live with a man who could not even tell his wife the darn truth. I went ahead and asked him if he had, been with my dad and had been doing something that would upset me. Josh's face and color dropped a pale, and he did not know what to say because he stuttered before saying that there was nothing like that, and he said I was overthinking and tried to hold my hand. I jerked my hand out of his and stood up. I told him that I'd been waiting for him, to tell him the reality, but he never did, and he said he needed some time and just to think of another chance to make it up to me. He went on to say that I was overthinking and he needed me to have faith in him. Blah, blah, blah. But I've had enough of that crap. I was so mad at him that I threw the glass from the table right at him, and it shattered to pieces on the floor. I did not realize it then, but my hands were shaking and I was having an anxiety attack. The anger was exasperating my symptoms of anxiety, and Josh tried to hold me, but I ran into my room and locked it, and I did not want to see his face. I called my friend Susan, who lives about 10 miles from my place, and she came to pick me up, but when I came out of the room, I saw Susan and Josh talking, and I heard him say, "Look after her for me, please." I mean, how could he say that to my friend when he was the one who had shown, that he should be caring for me? Now I'm at my friend's house for the past few days, and Josh is constantly calling me, but I never answer, I never pick up. And he would text me telling me to take care of and look after my health, and he was working on resolving things. It's true that one of you has asked in the comments about mine not directly approaching my father. It did not occur to me until today, so I'm going to confront him instead. Due to my anger and anxiety, I was not able to see the picture clearly. Perhaps I should indeed confront my dad about this whole game, too. I'm writing this in a gap of a few minutes. I just received a call from the police station. I can't believe that Dad would do such a thing, but the police just told me to come to the police station now. They said they've caught my dad in an illegal casino raid. I have to go now. I'll lose my sanity already. God bless. Update number 3. It's already just too much for me to take when Josh was hiding things, but now my dad's broken his promise. I can't tell you how much the situation has gotten worse. Everything's tumbling down, and the truth is, I still don't know why Josh is still choosing to keep quiet. Before I tell you about Josh and me, let me tell you about what happened at the police station the other day. I went to the police station after I received a call, and I called Josh and said that Dad was at the police station, and that situation, even though I didn't want to call, I had no choice but to do that, because I needed him by my side. But to my surprise, he was already at the police station. He said that he's received the call too, and I was at awe because how close my dad and husband have gotten in such a short amount of time. I know I should have been happy, but as I told, I could not bring myself to accept my dad's hostility towards Josh in the past. So, I reached the police station and Josh was already processing things for bail. In spite of my desperation to talk to Josh, I chose to talk to the police that told me about my dad. You gotta be prepared for what I'm going to tell y'all. Do you remember the bar I mentioned the last time? Well, there's been an illegal activity going on behind the camouflage of a bar. The police told me that they've received information about illegal casinos that have really just delved into all kinds of illegal gambling. They went there unannounced and arrested many people. One of them was my dad. I looked at my father in disbelief and disappointment, and my only question was, how could you break that one promise that you said to me, Daddy? Dad looked at me, rambling he was only there but did not do anything wrong as he did not have any money. Well, I said, quote, "It means you had some or you would have been broken your promise, right?" He did not contradict. Instead, he said that I was overthinking. So I shouted at him. Absolutely shout at him and expressed him outraged I was, listening to the same thing again and again and again. In the meanwhile, Josh came looking at me. I ignored him because I was already mad, and he said that he was having a problem in getting Dad bailed out. I don't know, but the Kevin inside my dad woke up. He started yelling at the two police officers standing in front of him, and he was so irresponsive, using invectives at the police station, calling them maggots and all sorts of things, and even duck you and whatnot. He just went on as Josh and I kept trying our best to shut him up, but he crossed the line by picking a glass filled with water from the table and thrashed it at the floor. But it looked as if he was attacking the feet of one of the officers nearby, and this whole thing led to a total cancellation of his bail. Another thing that happened is he was handcuffed and sent to the holding facility until the trial. This whole thing made me feel so disgusted so much that I wanted to leave, but Josh just held my hand. We were outside the police station, and I released my hand from his grip and mentioned to him that I had followed him to the bar the other day, and he startled to hear that. He asked me why didn't I tell him that before. I expressed how desperately I wanted for him to come around himself to come clean, but he never did. Josh tried to hug me, but I just stepped back. I told him I had nothing more to say to him. As I was about to turn around and leave, he uttered, I was trying to protect you. Us. Our family." I stopped looking at him for a second in astonishment, and he said that he was ready to confess everything to me since he saw no reason to hide it anymore. He wanted me to come home first, though. As I'm writing this, I'm gonna say that I've decided to return home to hear Josh's side, because after all, I can't be a burden on my friend longer than I've already been. I'll update you guys soon. So, thank you for your support and encouraging words. Updates number 4. I cut all my ties from my dad today because what he has done is unforgivable. He's been extorting my husband and lying to him all the same. I never thought a man so nice like my dad could turn into this heartless liar. He's worse than any outsider who used to just save their own skin. Well, I know you might be confused thinking what the hell happened in the past 2 weeks, that instead of telling you about the conversation between me and Josh, I'm telling you the step I took against my dad. Well, allow me to get a moment to settle down because it's too much for me to take. After Josh told me the truth last week, I had been planning to get back to my dad somehow, and that day I went home. Josh was relieved to see me arrive, and he sat me down on the couch, and I told him I wanted to talk to him then. He said that he's been helping my dad get out of his debt situation, which was worse because of illegal gambling and illegal casinos. The debtor was threatening to kill my dad. So Josh tried to help him little by little, and he could have helped Dad in an instant, but he was using the time that he, had to make Dad understand how bad gambling was as a sport. I asked Josh why didn't he tell me. He confessed it was wrong in his part, and he thought he was protecting me by not telling me the truth. For him, protecting me from anxiety attacks was more important than telling me the reality about my own father. I misunderstood him for getting involved in the gambling because of this whole situation, and he admitted that he should not have tried to solve everything by himself, and it could have backfired at him at some point in time. I mean, simply think that if Josh has gone to see my dad at the casino that day or to give money to the debtors, he would have gotten arrested by the police alongside with my father. So, let me take you into the main drama of today, however. Today was my dad's trial, and what he did was extremely blasphemous. During the trial, many witnesses came from the bar itself who saw him entering the casino, yet it was hard to prove his involvement in the actual gambling. My dad was charged with fines of imprisonment for 15 days, but he got so furious at this result that he spit on the floor of the court itself. The judge did not get angry. Well, he got even more mad. He increased his imprisonment period to 30 days. My dad must be regretting his actions now, and I can't help but detest him and pity him at the same time. I hate him for using my husband to save himself, and I hate him for being such a nasty person who did not care to keep his promise to his daughter, the only family that he even has left. Or had left, I should say. When he was taken by the police, I told him how disappointed I was, and he didn't even dare to say anything. Later, when Josh came, my dad looked at him and said, "That's all because of you, damn you. I know you're kind, untrustworthy." Even while leaving, my dad enraged, and I yelled, "Dad!" and he shut his mouth. The police took him away, and I have no idea how ungrateful my dad could be to Josh, who tried to protect him all this while and went so far to losing him. I told Josh that I've never been able to trust him that easily ever again, and he needed to earn my trust again. To test him, I finally asked about my dad blaming him today, and hear me out, y'all. Police had said that they've received information about illegal casinos, and the informer was none other than my husband. He said he could not pay Dad's thousands of dollars of debt alone, so a raid was his only option. He made sure that Dad was there at the time of the raid, so he called Dad to meet him the other day. And I know you might have questions, and I do too, but I'm going to keep it quiet for a while because I'm trying to digest all this. I don't know if I'll ever be able to accept my dad in my life again, but I'm sure that Josh will have to work hard to make me trust him once again. We were planning to have a baby, but I'm gonna put that on hold, as now I just need a vacation and some alone time. Anyways, thank you guys for your support. I could not stay calm if it wasn't for you sending me good vibes. Thank you. This is gonna be my last update. Okay, so it really didn't seem like Richard, aka OP's father, he didn't really have to spend that much time in jail. We're talking about 30 days. Either way, I do want to hear your thoughts. There was some comments down below that was very conflicting. A lot of the commenters were not in agreement to OP's husband keeping the secret away from OP that he was trying to help. But there were other people that were saying, hey, OP has extreme anxiety disorders. She has all these panic attacks. What her husband did was spare her from those nightmarish panic attacks, so he was doing the right thing in the long run. But guys, I do want to hear from you. This story had a lot of family drama involved, but the main question I'm asking, do you think OP's husband made the right decision to keep this a secret from her? Drop your opinions down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. Only about 50% of viewers are actually subscribed to the channel. Can you believe that? So make sure you smash that subscribe button if you enjoyed today's video. It helps me out so much. Thank you for that. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!